What is going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, and we have got an action-packed stream for you tonight. First of all, we're going to get into a Tottenham update, and then we are going to be reacting to that Levy and Vinai interview that has done the rounds on the Spurs YouTube, which I'm very excited to get into it. I mean, me and Sim were watching it in the car on the way back, and just at one point, both of us just burst into laughter. So we'll get into that. But first and foremost, let's get into this update. Starting off with talking about Vicario, as the Bleacher Report is saying that Tottenham are open to selling Vicario this summer. And should Spurs allow Vicario to leave the club, Thomas Frank, get this one, could either bring in a new goalkeeper or he could stick with what he's got.
Well, there is the two options. Yeah, it's got to be one of the great reporting there. Which one will it be? So who reported that? I missed that.
The Bleacher Report.
The Bleacher Report. Yeah, look, as I've said, I think ever since Frank got linked with us, I've always got the feeling Kinski might be better fit for his system. But we know Vicario, he's number one. I know he's had a bit of a dodgy spell this last season in the last few games. But I think by and large, people just for some reason forget that since he's come to Tottenham, by and large, he's been brilliant and a very good goalkeeper. And I know in his first season, he went through again a dodgy spell. Where he kind of struggled from set pieces, and the Arsenal game, he had that game where he got bullied and we were 3-0 down and that kind of stuff. And he was going through a spell where set pieces were being targeted, but I think he kind of got over that a bit. And then for some reason, back end of last season, it wasn't even about set pieces. He was just having some dodgy moments, like poor shot stopping moments. But in the Europa League, obviously, he was really, really good. And so I think he's a really good goalkeeper. And I do think he's a very good shot stopper. And I think he's, for some reason, been underrated ever since he's come here to Tottenham by opposition fans, or maybe because he was cheap and not well known. But I think he's been pretty good since he's come in. But yeah, at the end of the day, if we do get a really good offer, then it depends what that offer is. Maybe we'll consider it, but I still think he's going to start the season as a number one, and I do think he's going to be here. I just find it unlikely we're going to get an offer that's worth selling him for.
Yeah, I agree with you on all what you're saying. I can't really see Vicario leaving this summer. However, once it comes to pre-season, right, and all the players are there, and let's say Frank is really impressed with Kinski, selling Vicario will actually do wonders for the squad numbers, because he's a player that we didn't expect to leave. So if an offer
if we don't replace him with a keeper, obviously.
Yeah, 100%. But let's say like Frank is really impressed with Kinski and straight from the off he wants to give him a go. It might be worth selling him this summer just for a squad number basis.
Yeah, but then do we trust, if we're not replacing him, do we trust Kinski, Austin, and then probably Keeley next season with Champions League football? Do we trust that, or do we need a more experienced goalkeeper to come in and challenge Kinski? I guess that's a decision we have to make. I think on the face of it, probably we do, I would say. So I don't know if get Whiteman back. Like, I don't know if it's good enough that those. I know Keeley's very talented, and I know Kinski's young and has been all right, but are any of them ready for Champions League football?
Yeah, it's a big question mark. That's why I'm saying it only has to be if once Frank gets them in for pre-season and he thinks, he can move forward with it. Like, in my opinion, I think we should be keeping Vicario, and he should be fighting for that spot and saying, you know what, I'm the most experienced keeper here. I've got leadership ability, and it's on him to kind of improve his distribution and with the ball at his feet. And if he can do that, then, we won't want to sell him, will we? Because he's an unbelievable shot stopper and one of the best in the league. So maybe Frank can develop that side of his game.
Yeah, I hope so. And he's going to be asked to kind of do some different things, Vicario, to what he was asked under Ange. Under Ange, it was pretty much, yes, he had to be competent out the back, but it was very much just short passes to the centre-backs or to the full-back. With under Frank, from what we've seen anyway, at Brentford, very much a lot used to a lot longer passes. In fact, I think Flecken played the more long passes apart from Raya, I think, than any other goalkeeper in the league. So that is, and I think we played the least. Vicario didn't play; he played barely any. So that's going to be the switch up. And from what we've seen, Kinski seems more adept at that.
Yeah. So look, I like we just said before on the stream that we did earlier today, I feel like it will be Vicario. I don't think they'll entertain offers for him this summer unless it's like, you know, an offer that you can't refuse. But I think maybe throughout this, as the season goes on, and potentially next summer, we could look to sell him. But I don't think it will come this summer. So that's the Vicario situation. More on Son Heung-min. We did cover it a little bit in the stream, but we thought we'd bring it to you in a Tottenham update as well, as Ben Jacobs says that 3 Saudi clubs have inquired about Son and are willing to play 40 million euros plus add-ons. Spurs have huge respect for Son and won't force him out, even if a lucrative bid arrives. Sebastian Vidal says that Al Ahly, Al Nasser, and Al Qadisa are ready to offer 40 million euros and nearly 500 grand a week wages for Son.
500. I mean, that shows that obviously the pool, and we know how they're desperate to bring him there. Obviously, that's a good look on the face of it. It's a good deal for Tottenham. 50 million. What was it? 50 million? You said 40 million?
40 million euros, like 35 million pounds.
It's a decent deal, I guess, on that front, but it's pretty decent. But obviously for Son, that kind of money, I guess you could argue, and if you wait till he could still kind of get that, can't he? So will he be desperate to take it? I don't know. I just don't think he wants to go Saudi just yet.
Yeah. But like if that offer is on the table right here, right now, like obviously you can always have in your mind saying, yeah, but that offer will still be there in a year's time. But the way he's thinking, if Tottenham accept the offer and he's got 500 grand a week on the table, that just might be too difficult to refuse, surely.
He's willing to go Saudi, but he's always said he doesn't make kind of decisions based around money, and we know that he has a very lots and lots of lucrative deals out in South Korea when it comes to sponsorships and stuff, which I don't think he's worried about money and 500 grand a week. I think he's got enough that he doesn't have to make decisions based on that. But it is 500 grand a week. And it's maybe he won't get that opportunity again. I guess that is possible. So I think if Tottenham accept it and are willing to let him go for that, maybe he's thinking that it could be the right time to go there. But I still think he wants another season at the top level.
I agree with that. Maybe even a couple of seasons. I still think he's got it in him. But like I said before, I'll be distraught if Son was to leave the club. I still think he's got a lot to give the club. And I think a year under Frank, I think he could do a lot better in terms of impacting games than what he did last season. Obviously, he still have to manage his minutes, manage his workload within games as well. But I still think he has a lot to give this football club. And I think it'll be the wrong decision to let him leave this summer. I really do. Next up, we're going to talk about Bryan Mbeumo, as Rudy Galetti says that Tottenham have now cooled their interest in Mbeumo after understanding the player only wants Manchester United. Spurs see it as almost impossible to overtake Man United in the race at this stage. And yeah, I kind of had a feeling that these kind of reports were about to come.
Yeah, I think, look, Rudy Galetti, I don't think is the most reliable, but I also think there is probably some truth to it. We know that Mbeumo's always wanted United. There's always been the report, even with the ones about hijacking. The only one we had was from Sky Sports saying that he's more intrigued with the Tottenham project now that Frank's there, but he still leans towards Man United. As I've said and consistently say, and as long as that deal isn't done with Man United, there's a chance, and I still believe that. So, but I also think from Tottenham's point of view, you can't wait around for an answer from Mbeumo. If he's holding out for Man United, you do have to move on from other targets, and I think it's just a case of if Man United, for one reason or another, don't get the deal done, then you can kind of go back to it and swoop in. But right now, if you're just not getting a firm answer from him and he's like basically saying no right now, you got to move on and not try and rely on him.
Yeah, which is frustrating because he is Frank's guy. And I thought maybe there's a chance with Frank, albeit my kind of opinion was always that he probably was going to join Man United. But when the rumour mill started going over the last week, I sort of had a bit of hope. But yeah, look, we'll see if anything changes on that front. But right now, the latest rumours are that Spurs have called their interest in Bryan Mbeumo. But more positive talks on Antoine Semenyo, as journalist Sebastian Vidal says that Tottenham are increasingly confident of signing Semenyo. Spurs have intensified talks with the Bournemouth winger's entourage. Semenyo is valued at £60 million. And we did hear over the last week that if Wemo doesn't choose Spurs, Semenyo will be our number one choice and target.
Yeah, we've heard that from a few people, and I really like Semenyo, and I think he's done really well the last couple of years at Bournemouth. He seems to be improving. I think he's got some qualities that we don't really have in the squad in terms of a bit of like, not ruthlessness, but a willingness, I would say, to just shoot from a lot of angles and kind of that willingness to take people on, commit players, can play both sides, is pretty good on both feet as well. So he's got a lot of attributes, has to improve certain aspects of his game. And I think under Frank, he could refine him. I think that he's done that. So what he's done with a lot of other forwards. So I do think he's, I wouldn't say right now from what I've seen, he's like a player who's going to be a star in the Champions League kind of level. But like, he's a really good player and has a lot of qualities that I think if in the right system and if he's kind of reined in a bit, he could be a player could easily be getting 15 to 20 goals for us.
I agree with that, and I think Frank is the perfect manager to refine those skills and to develop him into a top winger in the Premier League. I think like he's kind of below that stage at the moment, kind of a level below the top wingers in the Premier League right now, but he could be pushing on the door with the right direction, the right coaching, and the right tactical methods. So yeah, I do welcome the signing of Semenyo. I think he can be a really good player for us. But I do think Son is the better player right now. And if we are selling Son to bring in Semenyo, I'm just not 100% sure how I feel about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I do agree. I think Son is a better player. Semenyo's obviously got more of a chance to improve, whereas Son we know how good he is. He's only getting worse, not better. And also Semenyo can kind of play both wings. Son's never really been great on the right. He's only really either stuck on the left or up front. So I can see the value, but I wouldn't say we improve massively with Semenyo coming in. I agree.
And last but not least, this is on the Brazilian right back Vanderson. A Brazilian publication, UOL, claimed that Tottenham are interested in signing Monaco right back Vanderson during this summer transfer window. The 25-year-old has been linked with a move to the Premier League in the past and is on the radar of Barcelona as well. According to the report, Tottenham have decided to spend heavily on the player to win the race for his signature. Tottenham are long-term admirers and they want to sign the player. They did want to sign the player last season as well. He's currently valued by Monaco at 35 million euros, which is like 30 million pounds or give or take. We know we've got Porro. We know we've got Jed Spence. We know we've got a doggy. Do they think Jed Spence is a left back? Do they think he's a right back? I think that's quite significant in the talks for Vanderson if they are true. If they do consider him as a left back, I mean, what set of fullbacks that is with Vanderson and Porro on the right and a doggy and Spence on the left.
Well, they must, if they want to bring in Vanderson, they must see Spence as a left back unless Spence is leaving, but I think that's probably unlikely. So we know Vanderson, Tottenham have looked at him for a while and have really liked him. We know that, I think last summer there was a lot of rumours that Tottenham were very interested in Vanderson. He's got really good qualities. I really like him. I think he's done brilliant at Monaco. Again, it just comes down to squad numbers, I guess. Like, is there a space for him? Depending on who else leaves. Because right now we were looking at the squad and we didn't even consider like bringing in a fullback, really. Maybe a hybrid left back and centre back. But to bring in Vanderson, who's another right back, all of a sudden that limits who you can get in and causes more complications. So it's just difficult to think about signing someone who's a specified right back and think we're going to have also space to get another winger in and another midfielder in and maybe a striker in and all these kind of things. It's difficult to think about, but on the face of it, I do like Vanderson, and it would be really good for the squad to have that competition at right back.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to need to bring in, unless we're saying Archie Gray is one of the options at fullback next season. We're going to need to bring in someone because we're leaving ourselves too short, aren't we, at fullback? Unless you say it's a centre back that can play there multiple positions. I mean, is that what we're just going to be forced to go for this season? Just very versatile players?
Yeah, I think so. Unless we get, as Brian says, unless we get Kyle Walker-Peters, and then we don't have to be limited.
He's not the required quality, though. That's the problem.
He's a body.
Is that what we're going for now? Just bodies?
Well, we got a lack of them. We got a lack of squad space,
which is mad. Why is no other club going through the issues that we go through?
They must have more club trained players.
So I was looking at the European season. Like Chelsea went into the Conference League with 21, Man City went into the Champions League with 22, but they just all seem to have just options all over the pitch all the time.
Maybe they're smarter with what kind of players who can play multiple positions. We've got Gray, but other than that, got Spence, but not many other players, I guess. Or maybe we're just overthinking it and thinking it's a bit too much of an issue than it really is. I don't know, but I can't really see how we are, judging by how we've gone through the squad.
Yeah. Look, it's very difficult. Maybe Spence is going to have to be left out the European squad again. I don't know how he'll be about that, but yeah, it would be disastrous, to be honest. But look, that is the update that we have for you. I want to know your thoughts in the comment section below. Now it's your favorite time of the day, the time to bring on Brian Daigle. Let's bring him on. Let's have a quick chat amongst yourselves while I get this up.
It's the most wonderful time of the day.
It is, mate. I have to say, late night WeAreTottenhamTV is where it's at. It's great to see you guys doing another late show. And yeah, just a bit of content to discuss. And I wonder what could be the choice of. So it's like Mastermind, and I'm about to sit down for my specialist subject.
That's what it is.
This is where it comes from.
Brian, would you bring in Walker-Peters?
I think it's a necessity, not the quality. Once again, it's not the quality, but we've got ourselves in a place where you look at it, and like you two have done regularly about the squad size and what we need, it's kind of a necessity, isn't it?
We're kind of being forced into it.
The only other one is Sirkin, really, at fullback, but that's going to be a fee, isn't it?
Could we not say that Walker-Peters is Premier League level? Is he not Premier League level? Is he not good enough to play in some Premier games?
Well, listen, he did okay for Spurs in times, but he's been in a Southampton team that have just been, don't get me wrong, he was heavily instrumental in getting them up.
He got in team of the season for the Championship, didn't he?
Yeah, but and then obviously did not look good in a Southampton team, but I don't think there's many players that come out with much credit from there, is there?
No. He's been relegated before with them as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think he's going to come in. It's a body, and then at least you have two fullbacks in each position. Quality-wise is always going to be the debate, but it's a free transfer, isn't it? And it's a club-trained player, which is the most important thing that we need.
And maybe, in a year's time, we could be in a better position with our club-trained status. I think in a year's time or 2 years' time.
I think 2 years.
Maybe in 2 years' time, you think?
I think so, because Bergval's only been here 1 year.
But Saar comes, doesn't he, at the end of this season?
Yes, I believe he does, yeah.
So that's one of them.
Maybe in a year's time, if Walker-Peters is really that bad, you can ship him off.
Yeah, but for a fee. Well,
for
perfect.
A fee, exactly. If he isn't that bad, then hey presto, you got a player.
There you go. There you go. But I think that's where you're going to have to go, isn't it?
There was one time he looked like a fairly okay-ish Premier League.
How long ago was that, Tim?
Yeah, so there was one time. Like I'm talking maybe 2019, maybe 2020.
I remember when Southampton were in the Championship and we were having debates about it, and you were like, Kyle Walker-Peters isn't the player that you remember him as.
He's not. He's better than he was. He's better than he was at Tottenham. I believe that. He is a lot better, but obviously we're in the Champions League now. He's more than good enough, I think, to play Europa League, but Champions League, I don't know. Yeah, it's question marks. But I think he can. I think there are some Premier League games he can play in.
Probably, and cup games.
And cup games.
Obviously, that's what it's going to come down to this season. And I can't sit here saying Thomas Frank develops players that I'm going to go give whoever comes in a free ride and then not do the same for Kyle Walker-Peters. Do I think he's the quality? Probably not. Actually, definitely not. But do I trust Frank to coach him and develop him? Yeah, I do.
Yeah, but Brian, Kyle Walker-Peters wouldn't be coming because Frank's here. It's not like he's going to be Frank's option. You know what I mean? He's coming in for one reason and one reason only.
True.
His underlying data isn't terrible.
You having a deep dive into Walker-Peters there?
Yeah, I'm just looking at him, just seeing what's what.
His underlying data might not be terrible, but his overlying data is is not great.
It's not bad. He's from what I can see, he's more than good enough on the ball, but defensively leaves a lot to be desired.
There you go. Well, that's about sums it up, doesn't it? Leaves a lot to be.
He has been playing for Southampton. Maybe at Tottenham. Maybe at Tottenham. One sec. He'd be okay.
Come on, man.
He's throw. Oh, there he is. There he is.
All right, look, let's move on to the next segment of the show. And it's Brian's specialist subject. Daniel Levy and Vinai have been at work today. Quite amazingly and it's actually bad to think about that we've heard from Levy and Vinai before Thomas Frank. Thomas Frank was confirmed as our manager last week. We still haven't heard from him. But Levy and Vinai have been talking. I'm sure everyone's seen the interview, but we're going to take it and chop it down bit by bit. Brian, I hear you. I can see you're gagging to talk.
Well, yeah, no, I was about to say, before we get on to this, and I thought of this just after the video, have they waited because they knew this interview was coming out and Frank comes out tomorrow or the next day? Has this interview always been planned to drop first before Frank? Or is it simply Frank's on his holidays, when he gets back, he'll drop the video and away we go?
I just think that this is a ploy, not a ploy, but I think this is Vinai's work, to be honest. I think this is Vinai's work. We know that he's been tasked with getting the fans and the club closer together. I feel he probably feels that the fans need a bit of an explanation as to what's happened this summer with Ange Postecoglou after winning a trophy, bringing in a new manager. And I think he's trying to bring the more human element to Levy a bit and maybe get him to show his face and to talk to the fans as well. I feel that's what's going on here.
Well, to be fair, Vinai's been here for a bit, hasn't he? So, well, actually he hasn't, but we know that he got appointed. We know he's going to be being appointed for a while. I don't know when he officially started, but so from that basis, it's not that crazy we've heard from him before Frank, but it's crazy that Frank got officially appointed now. What, Friday? No, what was it? Thursday. And we still haven't had that first official interview with him, which is a bit weird.
Yeah. But look, let's get into it. We'll take it bit by bit and see where we go with it. So let's bring it up. Here we go.
I've known Vinai for a number of years. Without doubt, he was the candidate. Sometimes, when you employ somebody, you don't know if you're going to get on. But because we've known each other, that risk wasn't there. So I'm very excited that Vinai's joined us, and I think the club is going to benefit enormously from it. Vinai, good communicator, honest, integrity, bright, right? Enjoys being challenged, and I want to be challenged as well.
Working with good people is one of the, if not the leading characteristic I look for when I'm doing a new role. Daniel and I have known each other professionally, as we've said, for a really long time. And I think we've got really complementary skills, and I think we're going to form a really powerful partnership. I'll be taking more of a lead day to day on operational matters on the pitch and off the pitch, but we'll be working on everything together. And certainly there won't be any decisions of any significance that happen at the club that we're not completely joined at the hip on. That doesn't mean that
Pause
we
that, pause
always
that.
agree.
So he's saying he's going to be taking day-to-day operations.
Yeah,
Was
which
Levy doing that before?
Well, I think that was was it Scott Munn's role or was it Levy's role? Because we heard that Levy was taking a step back. Scott Munn was coming in
Yep.
to do that. So maybe that was Scott Munn's role, but it's, still positive to hear that Levy won't be the one doing the day-to-day roles, because that's what we all fear, isn't it?
On the pitch and off the pitch, you say?
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
Levy can stay with the off-the-pitch stuff, which is on the pitch is what we care about.
Yeah.
True. I do love the bit where he says, "I love to be challenged," because normally he's challenged. It's like, "Yeah, thanks for challenging me. No, we'll do it my way." No, thanks for challenging me. I will say a lot of this, I think, is rebranded, reworded, repackaged from his last video that he did for Spurs TV. But obviously, Vinai's there giving his input, isn't he?
Is this the first time we've seen Levy do a joint interview?
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, go on, keep playing.
I just want to ask what you guys think about this, because I don't know if he goes on to say it or we already heard it, but he says that they're going to make decisions together, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just said that, yeah.
But even if they disagree, they're going to come. They're going to come to some sort of agreement. Like, who's going to have final say on that? Let's say they disagree on a footballing matter. Who's going to have the final say?
Don't know, Levy probably.
I'm actually
Not a problem.
I don't think it's him. I don't think it's Vinai as well. I think if this is all going to be different, if it's a decision like that, I think Charrington, who is obviously holding a lot. Obviously, I think there's a lot more going on than meets
He's
the eye.
not a football man either.
He's not, but he's Lewis's guy or Vivian, whatever you want to address it as. I think, should it be we're at a stalemate here, I've got a feeling Charrington, this again, just what I think Charrington might literally get involved, because we're all hoping the Donna Cullen and the colour dominoes that are falling is bringing change to the way we address things. And that surely has to be one of them, because Levy's normal I win the decision thing, and he's had Donna to back him up and check. Look how they've worked out.
Yeah, who knows really who's going to have final say. Maybe there'll be a vote on it if there's disagreement or something, like in the board.
And he's lost Donna's vote.
He's lost Donna's vote. Collicott as well.
Yep.
But look, let's carry on with this.
We often disagree and we often challenge each other, but I think that's a good thing. And I think by working together, we'll get to better answers. I think I've got some experience that is going to be valuable and is going to be helpful, but I don't have all the answers. I need to learn. I need to understand more about this football club. And listen, ultimately, in terms of how I see it, it's quite simple. I think a football club exists to make its supporters proud. And the way that you make your supporters proud is by competing to win and ultimately winning trophies. Doing that in a way that's consistent with the histories and the values and the traditions of a club that have been built up over many, many decades. And I'm genuinely not just saying it because he's sitting next to me, but Daniel was a key part of my decision as well. I think one similarity we've got, which is probably not healthy, is I know that we're both absolute workaholics, and there are lots of WhatsApps pinging between us at all hours of the day.
I thought you would say we both like red wine.
Yeah, but I don't know as much. I don't know as much about red wine as you.
So
he's so relatable, isn't he, that Daniel?
Mate, honestly, talking about football, red wine. Where does he?
Exactly. Vinai's like saying, I want to bring the success back to this football club. And Levy's like, oh, well, what about that red wine, mate?
Levy's just thinking about those dinners in the vault in the premium seats. That's what he's thinking about.
Yeah,
What kind of different red wines he can offer the customers. That's what he's thinking about.
He speaks well, though, Vinai, doesn't he?
Yes.
Vinai, I have to say, I'm very impressed with him. He speaks very well. He's good.
The thing is, right, if this interview was done without us knowing everything that has gone on in the past and all the interviews that we've seen in the past, I think I'd be quite impressed with it. But because we've known everything that's gone on, it's just hard to believe and take at face value what they're saying.
Vinai seems very personable. He seems to put his ideas across, and he seems quite relatable. Daniel are still, even regardless of what we say. This isn't me like saying we all hate Levy, but it's just what I see how he comes across on screen. He still comes across as not so a relatable person. He's just not good, and I've never really liked him in interviews and stuff. He just doesn't come across well, which is probably why he does so few, to be honest.
Yeah. Again, Vinai in this part, later parts not so much. In this part, he says everything you want to hear, doesn't he? And he sounds like a man that's got the fans and the root of the club at heart. And it sounds like I said, when I've spoken to many Arsenal fans via social media or personal friends, a lot of them speak differently about what he achieved football-wise. But one thing they all agree on, is his engagement and his interaction with the fans and the way he comes across. And this interview in this part, he's done exactly that, hasn't he?
Yeah, 100%. He's saying what we want to hear. Hopefully he's saying what he actually got brought in for, and that was, bring the fans close together and getting us on track to achieve success. That's what we all want at this football club. But like I said, he said Daniel was a big part of him coming to this club, so they're obviously going to be working very close together. And I just for the life of me can't take anything that comes out of Levy or anything to do with Levy at face value. That's the problem.
Yep. Agreed. Very strongly.
Let's carry on.
So my immediate priorities around joining the club are really threefold. The first is, of course, football, both on our men's team and our women's team. Obviously, we've got Thomas joining to be our head coach of our men's team. We're all super excited, but the hard work starts here. For our women's team, we've made a difficult decision around Robert. Grateful for everything he's done for the club, but we are going to make a change there as we've announced. So busy in a process at the moment to determine who the next coach will be of Tottenham Hotspur women. I am very focused on spending a lot of time to understand what's important to our supporters. So I'm listening, I'm watching, I'm reading, and I'm speaking to supporters. Some of that is structured. So I've got meetings with the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust and the Fan Advisory Board coming up in the next couple of weeks. And I want to learn. I want to learn what's on the mind of our supporters. And the final priority for me is spending time with as many of our 800 people as I can, understanding from them what does the club do brilliantly well that we can build on, and what are the areas where we can improve, because we want this to be the best possible football club it can be. And we've got 800 supremely talented people in this organisation, and we want to make sure that we get the most out of them to further the club.
I'm very grateful to Ange.
In terms of, before we get into Ange, he's the one thing he said was, I want to learn from what the fans think, what they think is whatever right, or Nina's going to speak to the trust and all that kind of stuff. What kind of things do you think he'll be hearing from fans about what we want, how we think? Is it about style of play? Is it about is it more about how we're treated by the club? Is it more about stuff on the pitch? What kind of stuff will he be hearing, do you think? What kind of stuff do we want?
For me, it's a bit of everything. It's going to be with football club, a football team that we can all be proud of, a football team that's geared up for success and to challenge, and also, how many times have we sat here and said that the club and the fans are just not aligned in any stretch of the imagination? There's no sort of connection between the club and the fans anymore, and I think he's done good work so far in the initial period of flags and scarves and trying to get that back together. But there's still a long way to go and a lot of work to do. But I think the way he talks about it, the work that he did at Arsenal as well on that matter, I actually very much believe what he's saying there in terms of trying to bring the fans back on side. And it's a good step. It's a really good step. So I don't think Scott Munn ever sat down and spoke to the Supporters Trust. So I think he's going to be doing really great work in that aspect. And I believe that he can do it because we've seen it down the road.
I'm going to add one bit to this, because there's one bit which frustrated me with this part, is he says he wants to go out and speak to the fans and learn from the fans. Why has he not mentioned Change for Tottenham in that? If you want to know what the fans are feeling, like we go on about the fans forum, why is it the certain questions? Why is it certain people like myself or people that feel the same way with the ownership? why are you not including saying, do you know what? I'm going to sit down with the Hotspur Supporters Trust. We know how that's gone with previous managers, directors of football. He's mentioned the Fab, which, let's face it, what have they really done apart from produce minutes? He's alienated out a massive chunk of the fan base. If you want to hear from the fan base, go listen to all the fan base. Say, do you know what? Obviously, those two are the most important and connected with Spurs. So I get that. I get that completely. But there should have been, okay, we're going to listen to the fans. You without saying change for Tottenham, I think that's a missed opportunity there.
But what do you expect him to say then? Because he's saying the supporters trust. He's obviously not going to mention change for Tottenham on an interview that's going on Spurs YouTube when he's sitting next to Daniel Levy. Like, is it beyond all realms of possibility that he does try and speak to different kind of supporters groups?
Well, I'd also just quickly add that I know Vinai hasn't necessarily done it, but I know in the past the club have actively looked to talk to people who are heading these movements before.
Yeah, I know.
Didn't it?
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, just because, and that I'm saying that meeting wasn't public.
Yeah,
that meeting was behind closed doors.
H has just put in the chat, Billy T, and I know a couple of guys at Change for Tottenham. They have heard something from the club. I don't know what it is or what the communication is. I know Change for Tottenham have sent an email back, but I think if you're going to address, like I said, he could have said Change for Tottenham because they could have got an understanding better. I know what you're saying. He's not going to say it in front of Levy. But if you're going to speak to the fans, surely you want to speak to. Obviously, I'm not going to try and make this bigger than it is or go, oh my God, how dare you? I just thought, you know what? If you're going to say you're going to go out and listen to the fans, then hopefully you're not listening to just the people that are just going to go, oh yeah, the football needs to get better. But there needs to be some real meat on the bones and say, this is what we think needs to change at Spurs or whatever.
You just said they reached out to Billy T.
Yeah, they've reached out to Change. I'm not too sure what it is. So, yes, in a way they have. But again, if you'd said it in an interview, again, it shows that things are being lined up to change. They are prepared to listen. Not so, like I said, H is right. There has been some kind of communication, but obviously that's what I took when I first listened to that interview.
But I guess, look, it doesn't really matter what he says in the interview in terms of which fan groups he's going to meet. If they have reached out behind the scenes, and that is majorly positive.
Yeah.
And also, I hope they talk to as well is Return of the Shelf and Flags and Spurs Function potentially. That is those people to start creating an atmosphere in the stadium. We know that days like Bodo were fantastic. We want to have those days more often. We don't want it to be a quiet ground. We want it to be somewhere that's loud, that's intimidating, that we every game we try and have a good atmosphere. And we know that previously the club have not been very helpful. They've done some things, but they haven't been very helpful in general in trying to do that. And we know that the fan groups and fan initiatives have been very critical of the club in their efforts. So that's, I think, when Vinai speaks to fans and knows what we're thinking, I think that's one thing that should be really addressed.
100%. 100%. Couldn't agree more. All right, let's keep going and let's hear what they have to say about Ange Postecoglou. Sim, this is your moment.
Great.
Getting out again.
Ange. In his first season, we finished fifth, and in our second season, we were over the moon to win the trophy. But we need to compete in all competitions, and we felt that we needed to change. I've got an excellent relationship with him. I told him always going to be part of our history. Himself and his family always welcome back. It was a collective decision. It wasn't my decision. We do everything together. Emotionally, it was difficult, but we believe we've made the right decision for the club. Whenever you have a new coach, it's always a fresh start.
Well, it's funny. He says if you listen to Levy, he's had an amazing relationship with every coach. He said he had an amazing relationship with Conte, with Jose, Pochettino. He said everyone he had a great relationship with, but then for other sources, is not so much. And Conte, literally called him out in a press conference. Yet Levy's there a few weeks later saying what a great relationship he had with him. So have to take it at face value. But Yeah, look, I'm sure I don't know how good or bad their relationship was. We know he said it was like an emotional decision. I don't know if Levy has emotions, but he says it was an emotional decision. We've obviously been through this so much about the sacking. I didn't agree with it. I still don't agree with it. I'm here backing Frank. But in terms of what you said about, we feel like we need a manager who can compete on multiple fronts, multiple competitions. Well, no manager has ever done what the board require, which is get top 5 or top 6 and win a trophy. That's never happened. Not one manager has been capable of that. So are all these managers not capable of juggling both multiple competitions, or is there something more going on? And so blaming the one who's done all the other managers by and large have had respectable league campaigns but haven't won the cup. We've not had a respect. Dan didn't have a respectable league campaign, but when won a European trophy and got to the semi-final of a cup. So he did do well in one aspect and not the other. He just didn't do well in the aspect that they value more, which is the league. So there's been no managers that have, under his tenure, been able to do what he is now saying he has sacked the current manager for not doing. So he has to look closer to home as to why that hasn't happened.
Yeah, 100%. But at the end of the day, look, we've been through it a million times, finishing 17th, but there are positives in his tenureship as well, obviously finishing 5th and winning the Europa League. But the reality is every time a manager fails, it's not due to the quality of the managers. It's never has been throughout the whole 24 years at Spurs. And moving forward, it probably won't be either. So, yeah, 100% he needs to look close to home and he needs to start acting differently if more managers are not going to fall by the wayside.
Yep, I can't say anything more than you guys said. All I will say, like Sim said, with the best relationship, I watch a lot of like MasterChef and cooking show. Every time they get to a final of these like celebrity or reality or talent shows, at the end of every season, they're like, "This is the toughest decision we've ever had to make." Until next season, yeah, it's the same with Levy and Saki Man. Yeah, we've got a great relationship. Welcome back, yada yada yada, and then you never see from them again. Like I said, with this bit, it's reworded, rephrased, repackaged, Levy bullshit.
Not even rephrased. It's like the same phrase.
Yeah, this bit is. I mean, we'll come to the end bit, and then it's just repackaged, rephrased, reworded. In my opinion.
All right, let's move on. This is on Thomas Frank.
Always have different ideas, but we want to build on the success of winning a trophy last season. I mean, one of the things that stood out to me with Thomas, clearly highly intelligent, great communicator, superhuman being, plus all the other technical aspects that are obviously important. But, they really stood out to me in those 2 parts.
So we ran a really, really thorough process at Speed. We defined 10 characteristics that we think are important to be a successful manager at Tottenham Hotspur. We analysed in real detail through our technical staff led by Johan, more than 30 candidates. We had a shortlist. We spent a lot of time with the shortlist, and Thomas was absolutely the number one candidate and could not be more excited to have him join the club. I agree with everything that Daniel said around his characteristics. Personally, one of the things I'm really excited about that he is an outstanding developer of young players. So I really look forward to seeing what he can do with the squad that we have here. I think the club has got wonderful foundation.
So when he goes on about they had 10 criterias, what they need to be successful at Tottenham Hotspur, how many of those were due to, or where in the 10 does it rank saying you need to do the most with the least amount of money?
Top, for sure. That's the number one criteria, I guarantee you. But it's interesting you said they went through this whole process, which, look, I don't deny them. 30 candidates said they had with 10 characteristics looking out for. First of all, it means they were doing all this while Andrew's manager, because we know they were speaking to Frank.
100%.
But as well, do you reckon they've done this with other managerial points? I think that seems like a very thorough process, which I doubt they did that before they appointed Conte, you know what I mean? So maybe
I think this is led by Vinai.
Yeah, this seems like something which is different. But I mean, 30, that seems a bit excessive. I mean, were there really 30 people in the job? Can you even think 30 different managers who could have been in consideration for this job?
Well, how many were with Nuno?
Vinai's first lie. You spotted Vinai's first lie.
Surely. I mean, I don't know if it was a lie. I'm just saying 30 is... You're never going to get down to 30. You know what I mean?
I will say
they had 30 and then they had a short list. But go on, Brian. The
biggest thing I take from this, I mean, obviously Thomas Frank for me, I'm just delighted that they announced that they looked at real data. They looked at real data. I'm really happy they didn't look at fake data, and they analysed it via real data. I mean, that was the we're see the progression. It's not fake data or Championship Manager. We're looking at real data, people. That is massive steps for Tottenham Hotspur. Real data.
When he says, one of the key things was the way he develops youth, does that say, and obviously what Ange was saying in his last few interviews was that we need experience to come in to the team to take us onto this next level. So does that tell you that we're just going to keep on this same model of buying youth, or are we going to get this experience that we crave?
I think we might get one. That's what I've always believed. We might get one big signing who's at a age where he's kind of ready-made. I think majority, I'm not saying necessarily youth, but the majority are not going to be like big signings. That's the feeling I get. And I think a lot of them will be on the younger side. But I also think it's more about trusting the young players we've got now as well. I think maybe that's what they're trying to say. We're going to put a lot more belief and trust them. And then just because maybe, Gray or whatever wasn't ready, we're going to trust them.
I'm kind of torn with this answer because I'm looking at it. Obviously, we know what was coming at the end, and coming at the end we'll get to. But here, I don't know if it means we're going to go down the same way, which we all think we probably will do, and it's going to be a busted flush. But if you look at our squad now, it is top heavy with youngsters.
Yeah.
It is top heavy. Whether we like it or not, whether we think they're good enough or not, the majority of our team are in that. We haven't got that many aging players right now. So he is going to have to develop them. Does that mean, I don't know if he's meaning it that way, that we've got a young squad currently, there's a majority youngsters and youth products coming through, and he's going to develop them going forward, or that we're going to stick to the same strategy and more youth come in and you get what you give them.
Probably the latter.
Please not.
But we'll see. But what he's saying about Thomas Frank being the outstanding candidate, and I've been saying ever since he was appointed, or just before he was appointed, I think he is the perfect candidate right now.
Yep.
Particularly with the way the club is run. So I'm very we keep saying it, but I'm extremely excited for the Frank era. But I think Brian is just brimming with excitement, isn't he?
Mate,
how many of the 10 characteristics do we think Nuno had?
Probably 0.
God knows.
Probably Premier League experience, probably the only one.
Well, that's the point. How many do you think Paratici would have?
I don't know if Fabio. I don't know. Do we think Fabio had such an extensive system?
Well, he wanted to bring in Gattuso. Gattuso's now Italy manager.
Italy manager. He is. God, that's going to be. We'll see how that goes.
Paratici was. Are you Italian? Have you played or managed in Serie A? You're not eligible.
Yeah.
But it's funny. Like they've gone through this whole process and they pretty much just land on the obvious choice. I mean, it's you know what I mean, which is like it's not like a lot of people would have said, yeah, Frank.
But you can see, like, with the way they speak, I know Vinai's new to the job and he hasn't been there with other managers, but you can see why managers come in here full of hope and optimism, and then they just get very frustrated very quickly. With the
what we need to see? There was loads, and I know you brought them up on your morning shows, when there was those memes of Thomas Frank after 3 training sessions at Spurs. It was like, we need to get one of Vinai for his 3rd press conference. And what Vinai will be looking like.
He's probably going to look. He's probably going to have a long beard down to here, grey hair coming out of it. All right, let's move on.
I'm biased. I grew up in London, so I think the club is based in the greatest city in the world. It has an outstanding stadium and training centre, and it's got a huge global fan base. The foundations are brilliant, but I wouldn't be here if I didn't think that there was another level that this football club can get to. We've got a bit of a taste of that in Bilbao. I think everyone associated with the club wants more of that. And I think there is another level this club can get to. And I wouldn't be here if I didn't think that level was there.
We're very proud of the stadium, but we need to make sure we win on the pitch. There's no point in having a wonderful stadium if you haven't got a wonderful team and winning. I mean, the reason we do all these other events is to provide additional financial resources to the club, which in turn goes back into the team. Everything is about the team. Everything.
I don't know how you do it.
All right.
Everything is about the team, right?
First and foremost, what Vinai is saying about the foundations of this club, the training ground, the stadium. You look at this club, you walk into this club, if you didn't know nothing about football, you'd think we're the biggest club in the world. That's what the kind of perception is, right? If you knew absolutely nothing about football. So I do genuinely believe that this club really is a sleeping giant, and I think it's got so much potential. And that is due to the work that Enoch and Daniel Levy has done with the stadium, with the training ground, with the infrastructure they've put in. Having said that, I've said it many a time, but I don't think that they can push us onto that next level because of the way that they run the club. But all it takes is for someone to take us to that next step, and we can fight on all fronts with the biggest teams in the world with the infrastructure that we have. We really can. But going on to what Daniel Levy said, it's it's something that we've heard many a time before coming out of his mouth. It's funny that he says, all this money from all the events goes straight back into the club, and it's all about the club success and everything like that. So why is our wage bill the way it is?
Mm-hmm.
Why is he the highest paid director in the Premier League? Like, there's so many question marks to what he says, and like, it's hard to believe him because he said it so many times, and we just keep getting worse and worse and worse.
God's him.
No, go on, Brian. I'll let you.
So, thank you. So, first of all, I want to go back on something Vinai said. Obviously, me being based in now Toronto and Canada, and you guys get to see it with your travels and what doing this channel has enabled you to do. When I moved here, I underestimated how big Tottenham is as a worldwide name. We all talk about it in England, and we all say, the people will say, the tourist fans or whatever. There are probably people in this chat right now from all over the world. And it's unbelievable just how big this football is known and supported worldwide. Like I said, we had like 400 to 500 people at the Scotland Yard. We normally get a good. The support in Canada is absolutely insane. The support around the world is insane, and Levy does have a lot to do with that. Credit him where I will. He has got a lot to do with it, with getting it out there. But give him credit. But like you said, with this worldwide appeal, and with what people do, then he goes on to say, like H said again, he doesn't help himself, does he? Because he goes on about it, and then he mentions the 30 non-football events, how this stadium is all about winning, everything reworded, rebranded, refreshed, rinse and repeat. Actions speak louder than words. And you can only keep saying this so many times that people start to go, do you know what? You're bluffing. But there's no doubt what Vinai was saying about the worldwide reach of this football club, which Daniel does deserve credit for, and Enoch. But yeah, he's got to stop talking about every penny goes back into the squad or to the team and the football club, because it quite clearly isn't.
When you're talking about how big this football club is, I think a lot of people forget how big Tottenham Hotspur are. And I think when you saw the parade on the high road, when you saw the fans in Bilbao outnumbering Man United fans, when you saw everything surrounding the Europa League final, the celebrations and everything, I think it made people realize how big this club actually is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let's just look, actions speak louder than words. You want to see that in action? Why are we still getting Werners on loan? Why are we only spending money on teenagers? Why aren't we, really going for big signings? Why are we always settling for signings that we can't get? And it's always happening. And I know we don't have to spend 250 every window, 250 million, but why is our wage to turnover the lowest in the whole league? Is that because that's all we can afford, or is there something more going on? And you know, I don't believe that we're completely kind of at our limit money wise. Sure, I just don't believe that.
Every penny goes back into the club, Tim.
Well, you forgot a few, I think. what happened to the 150 million that was being invested, and we only saw 97 million pounds of it? What happened to that 50 million? Where's every penny of that? Seems to be a lot of pennies missing there. Seems to be a lot of pennies missing.
Correct.
So look, we've had this discussion many times, and him just reiterating it now doesn't make it any more true.
Yeah,
Exactly.
all right, let's move on. And this is this next part was pure Levy glazing. Look at this.
Look how you paused it.
I think when you got to 20 years, you might not remember this. I remember I sent you a nice bottle of wine with a letter saying, "I don't know how you've done it for so long," because it just takes everything from you. It just, you know, the energy you need to put into it. So your stamina is quite something.
Do you know, I've got very broad shoulders. Failure's not an option. The desire to succeed. And because it's so difficult, I want to succeed even more.
My perspective of you is, I think
that bit when he said failure is not like he was obviously getting glazed by Vinai, so he kind of felt a bit like, all right, confident. And he's like, and he went for it. He's like, you know what, I've got broad shoulders. Failure is not an option. But it's like, do you know have you noticed what your tenure's been about? Like,
failure has been the only option.
The only thing you've done is failure. Literally, it's been only failure. There seems to be an option many times in your tenure. So, failure has been your port of call, the first port of call, really. It's failure is not exactly been alien to Tottenham. We literally have our own verb called Spursy. That's like, like that's literally part of your Tottenham is the fact that we fail. That's what we're known for, is failing.
Can I just dissect Mr. Broad Shoulders? Mr. Broad Shoulders, that at half-time and full-time turns the sound system up to WWE entrance level music levels, so fans can't be heard chanting his name and anger and frustrations about him. Mr. Broad Shoulders that asks the steward to pop balloons and not let them get anywhere. If you see them, tell them to pop them because we don't want the bad press. Mr. Broad Shoulders, who has tried to got stewards to take down flags, take down banners, and stop anything that Change for Tottenham have done. If he's got broad shoulders, I'm Dwayne The Rock Johnson's stunt double. let's just be honest here, Mr. Broad Shoulders. What bollocks! What utter bollocks!
Oh man,
I just couldn't believe he had the gall to say. Sorry, I just couldn't believe he had the gall to say failure is not an option. Like, of all lines to say, he brought out that line. Like, that is the opposite of Tottenham. That's like the opposite of Levy's Tottenham is failure is not an option.
Who does he think like is buying that? I don't understand. Who does he think? Who does he think we are?
It's like he acts like we're Pep Guardiola winning 4 titles in a row. Like, that's how he's speaking. It's quite unbelievable.
He's just won his first trophy in 17 years.
Exactly. And the first one that wasn't a League Cup.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and he comes out after that and saying failure is not an option. So what?
The first one like the League Cup, like he was winning League Cups on the regs. He's only won 1 League Cup as well, by the way.
He's won 2 trophies in his tenure. Fair play to him. He's got those trophies, but to say failure is not an option. We've had 1 season under his tenure. We finished 2nd. That's the highest we've ever finished. That was once. Like, what's success then? If failure is not an option, what has been success for us? Where have we succeeded every year because it's not an option to fail?
Success
it's one thing, you know. It's one thing.
In the books.
It's one thing, like be honest and say, look, we've had a lot of struggle, balancing the stadium, all these different things, and trying to get a team. I would respect a bit of honesty, but him saying, I've got broad shoulders, failure is not an option.
I have to say, Sean Butler's in the chat saying, why am I in the bottom corner?
Yeah, I've noticed that.
You can see Sean's reaction to the that's his live reaction there, his facial expression.
I wonder what Sean is today. Is he Levy in? Is he Levy out? Is it?
Well, he said my chairman. he is putting big, bold, capital letters. Yeah.
All right, let's finish off this interview.
You have got a very thick skin and you've got very broad shoulders, but I also see how much it affects you because I can see how much you want to win, right? So I think sometimes there's a perspective that because you have got a thick skin that it doesn't affect you, but I see it does. And I could see it in you before the Bilbao final because I could see just how much you wanted it.
The pressure and the disappointment of not winning over a number of years. I just wanted it so desperately, not just for me, my family, but all the fans around the world. We deserve some luck. And that last 7 or so minutes was horrific. It felt like hours. So when that final whistle went, that was just an amazing experience. And you saw the outpouring of emotion with the parade. It was just incredible. We've won a European trophy. It's not enough. It's what we haven't done that is more important. You need to win the league. We want to win the Premier League. We want to win the Champions League. We want to win.
Can I just say, right, what he says there? He says, I've wanted to win so badly. Like it's been this. Oh, he's trying to put over this impression. Like I've been so desperate to win. All I want to do is win. Like it's been killing me inside. Yeah, ENIC are the lowest investors in the league when it comes to money putting into the club. They're so desperate to win. They just can't put any money in. They just can't do it. We're just that desperate. I just can't even put a pound in. I can't do it. Can't bring myself. I'm just so desperate to win. I can't even bring myself to put a pound in. I can't do it. I'm so desperate to win.
Yes, come on, Tim.
What about he's so desperate to win? So desperate to win. Finally brings in a win now manager and sacks him 4 days before a cup final. Desperate to win.
He's desperate to win. It's killing him. He's staying up. He's the highest paid director, but it doesn't matter to him. That doesn't hurt him. He doesn't care about being the highest paid director. What he really wants is to win, which is why he just can't. This is why we have to be the lowest paid investors in the league from ownership. It's why they can't invest money so that we can kick on and actually get better players and actually fight at the top of the league. That's why, because he's just so desperate. He just needs to win. He needs it.
Sim, I just want to applaud this. This has needed applause. My good God, that was wonderful.
Ridiculous.
That was wonderful.
Who's he taking us for?
That was wonderful.
Absolute mugs every time he speaks. Every single time he speaks.
I'm going to say something here, which is going to be very, very out of character for me because I'm not going to stop my Levy outness or speak in my mind when it comes to him. But the greatest thing I'm going to take from this? He's never said, I want to win the Premier League, or next step, Premier League. He's always said, we want to win, yada, yada, yada. Well, like along the lines you were saying, Sim, if the next step is the Premier League or the Champions League winning it, because you've got this taste for success now, you have a major impact on us getting over the line. And that will be you bringing genuine quality into this football team and paying the respective wages that brings. Now, I see a lot of people, obviously we hear from the club have said this, or the manager said this, or Fabio's come out, Lange has come out, or Alistair Gold says this is what I've heard on Football London, or Talk Sport, or with Jordan talking his bits, or big accounts on Twitter will come out and say, I believe he's going to blah, blah, blah. Those were your words, Daniel. Like, no one can misquote it. No one can twist it. He has come out and said the next step is to win the Premier League and to try and attempt to win the Champions League. Well, I'll tell you what. You've got 2.5 months. You've got a new manager. On par with what you was just saying, Sim. let your actions, let your words be your actions, and let's see what you mean. Because if this window ends up being, let's just say like last window, his own words have tripped him up. His own words will come back to haunt him. He's got to act on his own words now. And if he doesn't, it just sums up what people like myself and others have said for years and years and years.
Let's be real, Brian. Let's be completely real and honest about it. If this interview was done on his first week or first year as being Spurs chairman, we would all lap it up. We would all be delighted with it. We'd all be, gagging for more. We'd all be saying, yes, he's going to bring success to this football club. But we've heard different variations of this year in, year out, many times. And this is exactly why no Spurs fan is excited by hearing any of the words that were said today. Because, any other club at any other football, with any other chairman, hearing those kind of words come out your chairman's mouth, you'll be like, come on, this is it. We're going for it. We're going to be fighting at the top. The club are going to put us in the best space we can to go and fight with the best with the best clubs. But we've heard it all before. And unfortunately, this is just going to fall on deaf ears once again. It's absolute bollocks from Mr. Levy once again.
I would love nothing more. than the window close and me come out and say, well, don't I look an idiot? Don't I look stupid? This has been a fantastic window. We've gone and got Eze Paulinho, just to say names, and let's say Robinson from Fulham. And I go on all the channels, including mine, including yours, going, well done. Well done. That's what we're talking about. That's what we want. But unfortunately, we never do. There's nothing I want more. Nothing I want more than to look stupid and be proven wrong when it comes to what we do with buying players, and yet to happen.
Ask Levy, would he rather put £100 million of Enix money into the club and go for a title challenge, or put nothing in and maybe go for top four? And I think you have your answer. And I think that gives you everything you need to know, proven by what the club has been doing ever since he's come in. I understand that running the club in a sustainable way and being self-funding and never wanting to put your own money in and making your own profit. Look, I get the model, right? And that's I'm not saying I'm happy with it and I agree with it, but I understand it, and it's somewhat, so there is something that's somewhat commendable about the way he wants to run the football club financially, and the way he has done it is very commendable. But to sit here and say I've been so desperate to win when you've basically gone to painstakingly lengths to not lose a single penny and not put a single penny of your own money, of Enix money, into the club ever since he's taken over. You've literally gone to the ends of the earth to not do that, when there's lots of opportunities we had that if they would have put a bit of investment in from their own money, and instead of thinking about how he can make himself the highest paid director in the league, and also try not to invest any of Enix money into the club and put us in a better position to compete for titles and compete for trophies. If he had done that, maybe he could have shown a bit more ambition to actually win. But the ambition has never been to win. It's always been to make a profit, make the club sustainable. And I'm not saying that's a terrible thing in itself, but don't come out here and say, I've always wanted to win. I'm sure you've wanted to win, but you want to win without spending a penny of your own money. That's what you want to. That's the number one. The number one is don't put any of your own money in and then win. That's the level here. That's the priorities. Priority number one is don't put Enix money in, and then if we win by a byproduct, by however way, by being smart, then fine. That's what we want to do. But number one priority is not to win, and it never has been.
Yeah, if he had two options, right, 100 million to make the club win, or to put us in the best possible position to win, or 100 million to build a new brand spanking hotel in the gentrification of the High Road, which one's he choosing?
Option B.
Exactly.
I'm loving this sim instead. This is wonderful. This was what late night We Are Tottenham TV is all about.
All right. Cool.
And the only reason it's probably hurt him so much is because of all the criticism he gets. He probably doesn't really care himself, let's be honest. It's probably just the pressure the fans put on because we just went so long without a trophy when we used to win trophies fairly regularly. Like the pressure is probably just, time after time, that stack continually every year. It grew longer and longer, and it probably just another stick to beat him with. So that pressure grew and grew and grew. And that's probably why the club itself was so desperate to win that trophy, to stop that stat of 15, 16, 17 years without a trophy growing any longer. But the actual need for him personally to get Tottenham to win a trophy, it just hasn't borne out in his actions.
Yeah,
Correct.
Absolutely.
Correct.
All right. I think we're gonna leave it there. Just have a quick chat amongst yourselves. So I just need to clip this, and it needs to be live while I'm doing it.
Well, there he goes. There you go. Sim, I have to say, whatever this Sim version of you is, I've loved it. I'm going to watch this back. In times of trouble, when I'm feeling low, I'm going to go back to the stream. I'm going to go back to this stream as a motivation.
I want to say quickly as well. I do think Vinai came across really well.
Yes.
And I do like a lot of what he was saying. I do think he comes across as a guy who knows what to say, I guess, says the right things and says them in a way that's believable and seems authentic. Even if he isn't, my camera's gone. Even if he isn't authentic, I don't know him personally or not, but he seems it. And I think that's something that Levy massively struggles with, is looking authentic and seeming authentic. And plus all the stuff we know anyway, but he just doesn't seem authentic. He just seems like someone who's trying to fake authenticity. He's a bit like Mark Zuckerberg, you know what I mean? He just doesn't seem like he knows how to be an authentic human.
I think
maybe that's something I hold that goes against him. Maybe that's not his fault, but that's just how I perceive it.
I agree with you, but when he started with all the Levy loving at the end, he was just trying to glaze Levy
and stamina, and
I was just like, come on, man, you were doing so well.
That's when you called me when I was just watching it, and you were like, "Have you seen it all yet?" And I was like, "No," but I saw it. I was like, "Oh dear." But Sim, I agree.
He ain't going to be with change for Tottenham being in account, is he?
Oh, mate, I would love it. Could you imagine?
You always say that, Sim. It's not one or the other. Like, it doesn't have to be one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum.
He's sitting next to Levy. Levy is a respected chairman, in whatever we want to say about him. He's a respected chairman in the Premier League circles with the job he's done at Tottenham. Imagine Villa and Everton and a lot of these clubs, in terms of the stature and the financial place we're in, they would love to be there. So he's very much respected amongst the Premier League. So I'm sure Vinai means every word he says when he says it to Levy. I doubt he's lying or anything. And a lot of fans won't want to see that, but I think he's authentic when he says it.
20 years, Daniel. I just don't know how you've done it.
Or is he the longest serving chairman in the Premier League, isn't he?
Oh, by far. Yeah. Like I said, a lot of the Arsenal fans all speak very, very highly about his engagement and talking. So he has come, apart from that bit, he has come across well. It's good to have some fresh blood in the boardroom. We'll see what else happens with the boardroom, and let's see if things do change when it comes to player wages and transfers. And as we said, it's what Daniel said right at the end, with trying to aim for glory. Let's see him give Frank some quality ready-made players.
Yeah,
let's hope so. And look, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in this window. I've got a feeling that, like most windows, we're probably going to end up being disappointed, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's a good point here, Phil P. Why drink red wine? White wine only. You missed a trick there, Levy. You should have said white wine.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, of course. Even his wine, he can't get right.
Big up to Phil P. But look, that's it from us today. 9 o'clock tomorrow morning is the fixture release. So we'll be live at that time, just a bit before. So be there or be square, people. Brian, always a pleasure.
Always. Cheers, brother.
And we'll see you all tomorrow. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always,
come on, you Spurs.